Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos, and on this video tonight I am going to be giving you a preview for the Real Madrid Manchester City game in the Champions League last 16 first leg tomorrow at the Santiago Bernabeu, and it is an 8 o'clock kickoff in the UK and that. Obviously, it's going to be a very exhilarating game, between Real Madrid and Manchester City. Of course, Manchester City have not yet beaten Real Madrid in the Champions League. I think, they have beaten like 4 times in the Champions League so far. Real Madrid have beaten them twice at the Santiago Bernabeu. I think, they have drawn twice with them at the Etihad Stadium and that. And as you all know, the Champions League is a priority for Manchester City. Of course, Real Madrid did lose at the weekend 1-0 to Levante. That's actually, their first defeat in La Liga, since, is it November if I'm right? September, their first defeat in La Liga. And I think Real Madrid are sitting second in La Liga. Of course, Manchester City did win at the weekend against Leicester by 1-0. Obviously, you saw my match reaction for that game. I thought probably, City did get away with a few, stuff in the game. Obviously, there was some dubious decisions in that game against Leicester at the weekend. Obviously, there was a lot of controversy in the game. There was talk saying that Leicester should have had 2 penalties. Obviously, there was one incident involving Iheanacho and Edison. That could have been a penalty to Leicester. Also, Kevin De Bruyne had handballed it from one of James Maddison's free kicks. Also, that could have been another penalty in that. So, City did get away with it a bit. Gabriel Jesus had come off the bench, to get City, the win. And I think that's more or less, guaranteed Manchester City second place because, they are now 7 points in front of Leicester. So, yeah, and obviously, City did progress past the last 16 last season. I think, they did beat Schalke 10-2 on aggregate. Surprisingly, Real Madrid, though, got knocked out of the last 16 last season. They lost to Ajax. And I think after that defeat to Ajax, that's when Zinedine Zidane, did walk back into the Real Madrid job. Yes, he did, because obviously, he did actually, walk out of the Real Madrid job. He was managerless for 9 months and, of course, walked back in. Obviously, before they got Zinedine Zidane back in, Real Madrid, did have Santiago Solari in that. But, revert back to what I said, it will be a very, very interesting game. A lot of people will favour Real Madrid because, Real Madrid are the most successful team in Champions League history. They have won the most Champions League. I think they've won 13 Champions Leagues of Real Madrid. Of course, Liverpool won it last season, but Real Madrid did win it the season before. They did beat Liverpool by 3-1 and that. And obviously, Pep Guardiola, as you all know, was coming out a couple of weeks ago, taking into account, and he was saying if Manchester City do not beat Real Madrid, and that obviously means they'll go out of the Champions League, then he said, he could be sacked by Manchester City, but I don't think Pep Guardiola will leave in the summer. Of course, as you all know, Manchester City are banned from the Champions League for the next 2 seasons for breaking financial fair play rules. This is the reason, why they're banned from the Champions League, so I do believe it's the correct decision. Don't forget Manchester City, paid a fine of around £25 million. Of course, Manchester City have appealed against the decision, and, they have thrown a lot of money in the appeal. But I'm very, very sceptical that Manchester City will win the appeal. Of course, there has been a lot of reports coming out when it first came out, especially with them being banned from the Champions League, that, they could get points deducted from them in the Premier League. They could get points deducted from them in the Premier League, could Man City. And, and they could also, even get a title taken off them. But that's not the adequate punishment. The adequate punishment is that they're banned from the Champions League for the next 2 seasons and that. But City want to win the Champions League because that's the only trophy that Manchester City have not won in their history. But they have obviously, won everything else. Of course, City more than likely are going to get some silverware on the board this season because I think, it's very, very likely that Manchester City are going to win the Carabao Cup, against Aston Villa. That will be their 3rd Carabao Cup on the trot. It'll be their 3rd Carabao Cup on the trot. And I think that means they would have won it like 4 times out of the last 7 seasons. So they've been very, very dominant in the Carabao Cup. Also, take into account City can still win the FA Cup as well. So, they can still win some trophies. Pep Guardiola has won the Champions League. But obviously, the last time he won it, I think he was a Barcelona manager. But he does want to win it with Manchester City. Guardiola's been a long-serving manager with City. He's now into his 4th season with Manchester City. He's Pep Guardiola. You know, so far he has won 7 major honours in total. You know, I think he's won the FA Cup, he's won like 3 Carabao Cups. Or is it 2 Carabao Cups? Obviously, you know, City did win the domestic treble last season. You know, they've won back-to-back Premier League titles. And, you know, they was hoping this season that they could have won their 3rd title on the trot. But obviously, you know, now that's not going to happen because they are sitting 22 points behind Liverpool at Manchester City. But Pep Guardiola, I think's won over 100 odd games in the Premier League for Manchester City. He's won over 100 odd games and that. The main explanation why Pep Guardiola is as good as he is because of Marcelo Bielsa, because Guardiola worked with Bielsa, you know, when he was a lot younger and that. So in a way, Guardiola is following Marcelo Bielsa's philosophy and that. But I think he won't, from now on, he won't spend the entirety of his managerial career with Man City. I think at one point, you know, he will move on anywhere, but probably, you know, won't move on in the summer, you know, will Pep Guardiola. You know, I know there was rumours about it going on a couple of weeks ago. Manchester City, you know, like I mentioned, they are the small club of Man City. You know, they're not a big club. They haven't built a great club. Like I said before, they have built a great squad of Manchester City, and this is the main explanation why they've been so good in the last 4 or 5 years or so. Guardiola spent over £1 billion in his managerial career. That's including, you know, what he spent when he was at Barcelona and Bayern Munich and that. But more than half of that £1 billion or so has been invested into that Manchester City team. You know, in recent years, City have brought players like Leroy Sané in. In recent years, they brought Raheem Sterling in, don't forget. I think Kyle Walker, you know, they got him in recently, you know, he's the most recent signing is Kyle Walker. Obviously, you know, Laporte and all that. Benjamin Mendy. So City, I think, alone have spent a good 200 odd million pounds on, you know, fullbacks. And that's, you know, disregarding what else, you know, that's disregarding what they spent on other players as well. So they have spent a lot of money, have Manchester City, you know, definitely in that. You know, Real Madrid, you know, they're also a team, you know, that's also, you know, spent quite a lot of money because, you know, Man City, you know, are one of the richest clubs in the world and so too are Real Madrid. Obviously, you know, I think Real Madrid spent over £200 million last summer, if I'm right, around €300 million or just over €300 million. Last summer, they recruited Eden Hazard did Real Madrid. They paid a substantial amount for Eden Hazard, didn't they, did Real Madrid? I can't exactly estimate how much they paid because I can't actually remember, but I think it was a lot of money. Obviously, you know, they did get Rodrigo in, did Real Madrid. They also got Luka Jovetic in. I think they got him from... actually, no, I can't remember the team. You know, they got Luka Jovetic from... Was it Frankfurt? Yes, it was Frankfurt. I think they paid a good £60 million for him. They also got Eden Militao in from Porto. And they also got that Mendy in, did Real Madrid. So I think they did sign around 5 or 6 players last summer, did Real Madrid, and I think they are considering spending a substantial amount this summer on bringing more players in. You know, Real Madrid have lost quite a few of their players in recent years. Obviously, you know, they did lose Marcos Llorente to Atletico last summer, so they did generate around 35 million, was it, for his departure. Obviously, Kovacic went to Chelsea. You know, I think they lost Ronaldo, was that in the summer of 2018, or was it January 2019, if I'm right? They got over £100 million for Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo endured 9 years, was it, with Real Madrid because they paid £80 million for Ronaldo from us. So, you know, they have lost quite a few of their key players. Real Madrid have purchased a lot of players from the Premier League over the years. You know, I think they've purchased around 23 players from the Premier League since around 23, or is it even 25? 23 to 25 players Real Madrid have recommended in since like 2000 and that. I can't remember all the players they bought. Obviously, they got Gareth Bale from Tottenham for £85 million. He was the record signing when they did purchase him back in 2013. Bale is now into his 7th season with Real Madrid. Also, too, they did at one point get Xabi Alonso. You know, they also got Luka Modric from Tottenham, did Real Madrid. You know, so they have recruited, you know, quite a few Premier League players over the years. You know, Ronaldo, like I mentioned. So, yeah, you know, they have recruited, you know, quite a few Premier League players in. But, yeah, it'll be a very, very interesting game. The closest Manchester City have come to, you know, winning the Champions League, I think, you know, was when they got to the semi-final. So, they did get to the semi-final. I can't remember when it was. Was it last season or season before? Oh, no, it can't be in last year. Was it season before Manchester City got to the semi-final? I can't remember. I know they did get to the semi-final, did Man City. But Manchester City, have not been as good this season in the league as they have been in the last 2 seasons. You know, there was good last season. You know, they only won it by a point though, but they still won it. There was good the season before, you know, because Manchester City did register 100 points in, you know, one Premier League season that. But looking likely, you know, Liverpool are going to break that record this season, because I think Liverpool are probably going to finish on more than 100 points, but minimum 100 points in that. But, you know, City have not yet beaten Real Madrid in the Champions League, so just revert back to what I said. Bit of team news going into the game and that. Real Madrid have got some injuries, so that's positive news for Man City. Real Madrid have got Eden Hazard out with an ankle injury. I've heard there's been reports saying that, you know, he could be out for the rest of the season. So he's out with injury for Real Madrid. Marco Asensio, he's another player that's out with injury. I think also too Ruben Diaz is out with injury. You know, they got Diaz back in January 2019. So he's another player Real Madrid did get from the Premier League. I think Gareth Bale is set to return. Like I mentioned, Gareth Bale is a very injury-prone player, but, you know, he's still done really, really well with Real Madrid. Obviously, you know, he's a former Tottenham player, former Southampton player. So, obviously, you know, he's well proven in the Premier League because he played in the Premier League for several years in that. I'm actually no surprised Bale didn't leave Real Madrid last summer, because don't forget, you know, there was rumours about Bale going to China last summer, and reportedly, you know, this Chinese club offered him around £1 million a week or something like that, if you do remember right. I think it was last summer. There was a lot of narratives going on about it. You know, Bale, he's one of the highest paid players, isn't he, in the world? Not the highest, but one of the highest. I think he's on a good, is he £600,000 a week at Real Madrid? I think he's still under contract with them until 2022. But yeah, he's recently been ill, by the way, is Bale, but I think he's set to return. Also, too, Luka Jovic has been out with illness. Manchester City, wait there a minute. Manchester City, they have got a couple of injuries. Leroy Sané is still continuing his rehabilitation because he's been out for the vast majority of this season as Leroy Sané. And also to Raheem Sterling, there's a positive coming out regarding Raheem Sterling, because reportedly he's, you know, coming back from this hamstring injury. I think Raheem Sterling has been out for a good 3 weeks now for Manchester City. He did get injured in City's, you know, game against Tottenham and that. You know, Laporte's just recently come back for City. Also, too, Benjamin Mendy's just come back for City and that. So they have had quite a few injuries this season of Manchester City. But let me just look on that. They've had quite a few injuries this season of Manchester City. But, you know, to be fair, you know, City have got some good players, and, you know, they are capable of beating Real Madrid. Obviously, you know, if they can get at least one away goal at the Santiago Bernabeu, you know, that will definitely, you know, make it interesting. You know, they have got good players like Aguero, very, very good striker is Aguero. He's been a long-serving player at Man City. I think he's been there since 2011. I think he's now currently into his 9th season, is he, as a Manchester City player, if I'm right. Something like that. You know, they've obviously, you know, got that Jesus, very, very good player. That Rodri, however you pronounce his name, I don't think he's that good for Man City. Because I've watched him play quite a few times. I've got a lot of element of concerns about him. They've got other good players as well of Manchester City, take into account. Sterling's not bad for them. You know, so they have got some good players that could cause Real Madrid all sorts of problems. Yes, they have. You know, Edison's a pretty decent goalkeeper, but he's not one of the best in the world. And that. Yeah, so it will be a very, very interesting game with Real Madrid and Manchester City. So that's your preview for the Real Madrid-Man City game. Also, I am going to be giving you a preview for the Club Brugge game. It will be coming up tomorrow now, more than likely. Also going to keep you up to date of what's going on, you know, with the transfer news and everything. So, yeah. So anyway, guys, drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again soon. Thanks for watching. And, you know, as well, you know, Real Madrid have got a lot of good midfielders in their team before I go. You know, they've got that Isco, that's been a long-serving player for them. You know, they've got that you know, James Rodriguez, I think he's just come back on loan from Bayern Munich. You know, they've got that Camillero, have you pronounced his name if I pronounced it right. You know, so Real Madrid have got a, you know, really, really good squad. They've obviously got Benzema there as well. That's been there for several years. And yeah. So anyway, guys, now I'm going to be getting off. We'll be on sometime tomorrow afternoon, you know, for the preview for the Man United Club Brugge game. Also, like I mentioned, there'll be more transfer news coming up. And take care. God bless you all again very, very soon.